Hi everyone, I'm Amy and this is the clay space at your place. I've got our very first take-home kit here. I'm going to pop it open and show you what we've got inside. So we've got an apron so you can keep nice and tidy. Feel free to put this on, get it all muddy. Got my toolkit here. Let's see. Got a bag with 2 pounds of clay. And I've got my wear board. Let's see. Put this aside. And we'll check out what's in the toolkit. So, I've got my sponge for cleaning things up. Got a wooden tool for smoothing the clay out. I've got a needle tool for doing all my scratching and attaching. I've got some paintbrushes here to add some water where I need it. And I've got a little carving tool so I can carve some designs and doodle some pictures. And then this works great as a little water holder. So put my water in here, and I'll put all my tools on this side, and I'm ready to start. So, two pounds of clay, all kinds to make anything you can imagine. I'm going to rip it in half just to start out, and I'm just going to use half of it, have leftovers for other little things I want to make. So I'm just going to start out by making a pinch pot because it's the most common thing that we usually start out with in clay. So I'm going to roll this around on my board, get a nice round ball. I don't need to add any water or anything at this point. I just want some nice round ball to start with, and I'm going to stick my thumb in the middle, and then I'm going to pinch around in circles like this. And it's going to start out really, really thick, but you're going to take your time and go over everything twice. And then I'm going to go back to the bottom, pinch that a bunch more. And you're going to see it's going to leave all kinds of finger marks all over this. I kind of like them, and a lot of times I'll just leave them there because I think it looks kind of cool. So pinching, pinching, pinching. The walls of this bowl are getting thinner and it's getting bigger and wider. So that little tiny ball of clay that I started out with is now a great big bowl. It's got a kind of rounded bottom, so I could either give it a few taps on the table like this and flatten it so it'll sit flat. And I could do the same thing with the rim if I want. And now it's a nice kind of straight bowl. If you wanted to get rid of all these fingerprints, you could take your tool here and smooth them all out. But like I said, I kind of like all those fingerprints. I'll just show you. And you could go back over with your finger and just smooth this out, kind of like you're smoothing out icing on a cake. So there's what it looks like without any fingerprints. If you want, you could find some cool stuff around the house to stamp. It doesn't need to be anything fancy at all. Let's see. I've got a Sharpie here. I'm just going to take the cap and make a nice little pattern around the rim. That could look really neat. So what other things I could do? I've got a nice flat bottom on this, but it would be neat to add some feet. So I'm going to flip it upside down, take some of my extra clay, rip another piece off. And when I put feet on things, I like to put 3 feet You can put 4, you can put 10. That's up to you. I'm going to make some round little balls. I like 3 feet because then it's less likely to wobble around. So, this is your needle tool. Don't poke yourself or anyone else with it, but other than that, it is pretty safe. I'm going to put lots of scratch marks here. So, clay is pretty cool and pretty forgiving, and it lets you do almost anything. But the one thing that you absolutely always have to do is give it lots and lots of scratch marks where you want things to attach. So I'm going to put scratches on this. And they're not just little scratches, they're really, really deep scratches. Imagine that you're making Velcro. So you want it to have lots of little teeth. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush, and I've got all this water here, and I'm going to add water to every place that I scratched up. There. And then the third thing I'm going to do is give it a little wiggle and squish it on there. So scratching, add water, and then give it this little wiggle, and you'll feel it kind of stick on there and it won't want to wiggle anymore. There. My puppies are waking up. So now I've got 3 little legs on my bowl and a nice little pattern around here. I could be done if I want to, or I could add some other little things. If you want, at this point, you could take a pen and paper and do a little doodle to see what you want the thing to look like when you're all done, and decide if you want to add little things like ears and eyes. Remember, any little thing you want to add, you always have to scratch. It might look like it's going to stick on if you don't scratch it, but then chances are as it dries, it's not going to stay. There. Scratch, scratch. There we go. And once it's on there, then I can do little things like bend. It's getting kind of cute. And then when it comes to little tiny things, let's see, I think I'm going to erase all these little dots that I put on here. Clay is very forgiving. If you don't like anything, you can usually just smooth it right out. But when it comes to things like eyes that are really tiny, or whiskers are another one, I find it's a lot easier to draw them on with either the needle tool or carve them in with the carving tool than to try to add little tiny bits of clay. So much easier just to draw little tiny details on there. So now I've got a little kitty cat bowl. It's got little feet. I could add a tail on the back if I want to. I've got all kinds of clay left. I can kind of play with the shape of it. There. And if I'm all done, the last thing I'm going to do is sort of flip it upside down. Maybe get someone to help you if it's got ears like this. And I'm going to write my name, first name and last name, so that it can come back to me and it'll be easy to figure out whose it is. So always put your name on things. If you want to make a second little thing with your leftover clay, put your name on that too. It makes it a whole lot easier for us to track everything down and get things back to people. So full name, not just initials. We are expecting to get a lot of pots into the studio. So there. Now after I'm all done and I put all my finishing touches on and my tail and my name is on it, I'm probably going to want to wrap this up in plastic before I put it back in the box. And that will make it dry and nice and slow and avoid any cracks and stuff like that. So, yay!